This is Dean Bergman talking for those folks that don't recognize the voice. We are working with our first virtual lunch and learn today. So we thought we should get back out in front of you guys and talk about a couple of things that have been going really well with Huber & Associates and our customers. We're seeing adoption of the BIGFIX and the iLand platform both pretty regularly, and like I said, been very successful. And if anyone knows me well, you know I like to talk about things that work as advertised. So welcome. Introductions, we've got Don Mossman on with BIGFIX today, and he's going to be one of our speakers. And then we have Will on as well, Will Urban with iLand, and he's going to be doing some discussion around the iLand. And we're going to do a little something different. We're going to try to break it up. We're going to do the old Texas 3-step today. So we're going to kick things off with Don Mossman, we're going to kick things off with Will, and Will's going to do a little bit of maybe a 10-minute overview of iLand, and then kick it off, and we'll switch over to Don, and then we will switch over back to Will to finish things up. Please let us know if there's any questions in your chat window. Lana will be gracious enough to be recording those for us. So that being said, we look forward to getting things going here. So Will, you want to, Missy, you want to provide the screen over to Will? And Will, are you ready to take it over?
I am, and thank you guys very much for having me. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you well. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. You guys can see my screen okay?
And we can see your screen perfectly.
Sweet. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you everybody for having me. I'm just going to do a little quick talk about kind of the state of the industry and where everyone's at, and then hand it on over to Dawn for talking about BIGFIX, and then we'll talk a little bit about data protection stuff. But really, there's really kind of two sides to data protection. And that's what everyone here is going to kind of learn about and talk about. But, you know, why is all this important? And, you know, you don't have to go more than just the local news and the global news to see everything that's going on today, right? You've got, you know, data breaches, and you've got security issues, and you've got ransomware, you've got malware, and you've got outages, and you've got natural disasters. And I mean, it is almost daunting the amount of stuff that IT has to worry about on a daily basis. And now you have a global pandemic and working from home and all sorts of other things going on. So it just never ends for IT. And the idea is we want to help IT become as efficient as possible and to get back to delivering business to the value to the business, rather than worrying about all of the things like, you know, data breaches and ransomware and security issues and recovery and all that stuff. So everyone knows this. It's crazy out there. You know, nobody can sleep at night because of all this stuff. And that's what Huber is here to help you with, is having the conversation about what you can do, what kind of implementations you can have to secure your organization and to recover from any sort of outages. So just a couple of facts. You know, one of the biggest issues that's happening right now is really around cybercrime and ransomware and all this stuff. And I'm not going to read all these statistics because most people know that, you know, in addition to everything else that you have to worry about on a daily basis, this global pandemic has really seen a rise in cyber criminals and cyber, issues around ransomware and, you know, additional phishing attempts and additional, you know, crypto lockers events and stuff like that, because, you know, what they're doing is they're preying on the fact that people are so busy with everything else, trying to get their remote workers up and running, trying to worry about, you know, getting their organization to get through these trying times, and they're pouncing in on this. And, you know, it's pretty scary how costly cyber attacks is, let alone, you know, data breaches, and regardless of whether or not you're, you know, mandated by GDPR or any number of regulatory firms or anything like that. Like, the cost is just skyrocketing. And so, you know, as more and more people are experiencing these issues, as more and more people are understanding the cost of these issues, you know, you have criminals that are taking advantage of this, but then you're also having, you know, insurance companies who are looking at this and saying, you know what, we're not charging enough. And so in order to comply with cyber insurance and things like that, you must have a security aspect and you must have a recovery aspect. And that's kind of why we're here today, to talk about, is how you can implement all these faceted tools to protect your environment. And this is kind of a funny thing that I thought was not funny in a haha, but funny in a bad way. But cybercrime has become, one of the most challenging things for IT because there is so much money there. Europol is saying that it's a $3 trillion business. It's more profitable than global trade in marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. So when you think about, oh, it's just my student data, or oh, it's just my, my orders, or it's just my whatever, that data has real value and you have to protect it. And there are so many different ways to protect it because there are so many different ways to get in there. And that's what BIGFIX is here to talk about, and that's what iLand is here to talk about, because it really comes down to defense in depth and IT resilience. So when we talk about data protection, you probably hear the word data protection all the time, and it means so much to so many different people. Data protection to a networking person is a firewall or firewall rules or microsegmentation or, denial of service attacks. Data protection to an InfoSec person is all around encryption and protecting your endpoints and protecting the users from malicious software or malicious acts. And then data protection to a backup person is all about backups and recovery and IT resilience and disaster recovery and replication. So all of those things are important, and you have to have it all. And so, I'm going to turn it on over to Don in a second, and he's going to talk about, how what BIGFIX does and how they can implement endpoint security and other various forms of security to help kind of protect the data. And then we'll talk about how iLand can come back in and help you in the event of a recovery. So whether data gets encrypted or whether data is lost, or there's a natural disaster or a power outage or something like that. And you really can't have one without the other. You have to protect your data from a security standpoint, and you have to protect your data from a recovery standpoint. So Melissa, if you could hand it on over to Don. Don, go ahead and talk about how BIGFIX is implementing. Oh, one quick thing real quick. There's all sorts of things that Hubert can help you analyze and understand around things like policies, procedures, awareness, physical security, network security, best practices, and stuff like that. But really, let's go to Don and have him talk about the BIGFIX solution and how it can help you secure your organization.
Thank you, everyone, once again for having me on, and Mike Sorensen, my business partner, partner in crime, if you will, for any kind of sales stuff. We always go to Mike. I'm your technical advisor, and just a little history. I've been doing this a couple days now, and have worked for IBM and a couple of other competitive products on the way to becoming part of the BIGFIX family, and it's been an excellent experience so far. What I'd like to do today is I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our portfolio of products, and it's a very simple solution. We have a platform that sits over you, and then you have the 4 different modules, kind of like a cable box. And so you can mix and match whatever modules you'd like. You can see patch, you can see lifecycle, which is our classic systems management tool. It includes patch. Compliance module for hardening servers and CIS and DSA-STIG and PCI compliance, etc. Very powerful tool, also includes patch. And then last but certainly not least, our inventory solution, which helps you to manage your software assets, compare them against your contracts, figure out what titles are not being used, what's overused, underused, oversubscribed, undersubscribed. Bottom line is that tool can really help you save some money. So that said, we're going to move along here at a pretty good clip, and I just want to mention to you about one of the strengths and powers of the BIGFIX tool. And I'm a big fan, basically because I started out as a customer, then I became the competition, and then of course I saw the light, and BIGFIX decided to hire me on, and it's been an excellent experience so far. And one of the reasons that BIGFIX is so different, you can see on part number 1 there, it's a single agent. That's right. We don't do anything but this one little agent, and I mean little. It's efficient. It's fast. It can help you to manage any of the OSs that you have in your house. I'm pretty sure that would cover most everybody, unless you have some special one-offs. You might notice things like the use of CPU down at the bottom there. And we don't rely on WMI or Active Directory or WSUS or any of those external tools to get our job done. And we have a moniker of being a very fast and efficient tool. And of course, with that said, you're going to find yourself being able to leverage this tool very inexpensively, but most importantly, very effectively. It's really quick to get it up and running and patching your devices. And of course, to take it one step further, you know, you see that title that says real-time visibility and control. Well, if you can't see it, you can't manage it. And of course, BIGFIX is great at helping you to capture the basic inventory of every single device that you have, that you've installed an agent on, or that you wish to scan and figure out, do I have an agent on there? All that built into the platform and the patch. Now, I do want to mention one important little item as we get back to business here. Everybody's stuck at home. Yeah, it's work from home time. And it's a tough endeavor for a lot of companies. And one of the things I've experienced, not just with Huber and Associates and their customers, which we have a number of satisfied customers, and that challenge was, oh my gosh, we have all these people who used to be here on site and now they're at home. And they have to either use a VPN to dial in or try to use their phone. And well, it's not working out too well. And how do we get them patched if they're not connected? And well, the good news is with BIGFIX, you get that out of the box. That's a built-in effective tool for managing off-network users, regardless of whether they have VPN or not. We're going to keep them patched and compliant throughout the life cycle of being in your control. So whether the machine is on network or whether it's off-site and they're at home or they're wherever, maybe they lift the pandemic and now they're at a hotel or they're over in Cleveland at a customer site, we can manage those devices. No VPN required. You just need the BIGFIX platform. And so as I move forward, one of the things I do want to focus on and elaborate is about the BIGFIX patch tool. Like I said, very quick and efficient to bring up and get set up and work with your endpoints. And you might note a couple of key points there on the left-hand side. 100 plus OS and applications, 120,000 patch fixlets. Fixlets are our way of saying it's a wrapper around patches or software distribution items, third-party content. It's our wrapper, and that's the phrase we call fixlets. And so we use those fixlets to help our users quickly and efficiently manage their endpoints and servers and keep everybody productive, risk-free. Very important stuff. So now, what do you say we take a look at each of the items? And I don't have to read each one of these items for you, but as you'll note here in the patch column, these are the things that we offer you. Now, on the horizon and actually available right now, and I do want to mention this to everyone, now as part of the platform, when you get into BIGFIX, you automatically have an integration with ServiceNow, built-in integration. That's great news for a lot of our customers. Also, we're introducing this coming week our integration with security scanners. So if you own Qualys or you own Tenable or you own Rapid7, we'll be able to ingest that data and compare it to what we see on the endpoints, and then help you to discern who's patched, who needs to be patched, what CCEs or CVEs are in scope for applying to these devices to keep in cooperation with your SecOps team. The IT operations team now has a tool and integration to their content, making that whole ecosystem even more efficient. And of course, I would fail to remind you again that as part of this overall platform right here, comes the work from home content, where you can enable that in your environment and then patch and collect data from your endpoints, really no matter where they are in the world, but right now they're probably at home, so we can help you with that as well. Now, I think I babbled long enough, and this is just a picture that kind of architects how we do what we do. We have a tremendous feature built into our new product that gives you cloud awareness. If any of you are endeavoring into the cloud, we'll be able to discover and give you visibility into all the devices that you are managing or are even available to you view-wise in your cloud environment. Obviously, I'm specifying AWS, and I'm talking about Azure and Google Chrome, Google Cloud. So with that said, and your permission, I'm going to move ahead and go into a little presentation about how easy it is to patch with BIGFIX. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to my BIGFIX console. This is our web UI console. It's an anytime, anywhere portal for any of your users that have been granted authority to go in and produce results on collecting data, finding data, patching machines, etc. So with that said, here we are into my web UI, and a little tour is probably needed at this moment. So I'm going to give you my nickel tour of the interface here, which is this is what we call our opening overview dashboard. You can obviously see all your devices, which ones need patches, software packages that are desired by them, custom tasks, baselines, which is our way of saying a collection of your patches that meet a certain criteria of yours. You can actually see the patch severity of patches themselves just by clicking on the tile, and then it will show you those patches that are available. You can filter on any patch. Maybe I don't want to see anything but stack. I can type up their stack. Immediately I see a filter on stack. So it's a very, very efficient tool, and one that lends itself to efficiency and expeditious execution. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you that in just a moment. But last but not least, I want to give you a view that we have an executive dashboard as well as a cloud dashboard that can really help change the way you look at your content, no matter where you are, because this is a browser-based interface. So all you need is permissions. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our cloud dashboard, which is obviously going to help you to understand who's where and what do I got on them. So let me just give you a quick look-see in here at my AWS instance, and what you'll see as I've collected the data on my devices, you can tell because I can see, number one, it's a cloud device, and number two, I have installed an agent. This is just a cloud device I've discovered. I can see more data just by simply clicking on the hide show detail, and there's my data on that device, or I can drill in even farther and get really crazy deep on what do I need to know about this device that's sitting in the cloud. And this data is automatically refreshed on a routine cadence, normally hourly, and you can't tell. The BIGFIX agent is nearly invisible. So with that said, this is just kind of an overview of our dashboard and how we roll with the BIGFIX web UI. And let me show you just how simple and easy it would be to patch a device. And this is what I call just a one-off, I'm going to patch a device. So my boss comes to me and he says, here's my story. Hey, I've got this scenario from the SecOps guys, and they need you to patch all these criticals for the Windows operating system. So I'm going to drop down and say Windows. And then I'm going to pick the version of Windows. Why don't I just pick on, let's say Windows 10. That seems to be some low-hanging fruit. By the way, I'd be silly if I didn't remind you that BIGFIX offers you the ability to continually patch your Windows 7 and 2008 servers, even though they are no longer being supported in general. We offer you that content. You need to have your contract with Microsoft. Once you get your Mac key, we can enable you to patch Windows 7 or Windows 2008 for one solid year for one flat fee. Very simple to do. So that's something you may want to jot down in your notebook. So now I'm going to continue in my patch effort, and I'm going to go ahead and say security. You notice it's a pretty simple algorithm here. And all of a sudden, for all my Windows 10 devices, it's showing me these are the patches that I need to deploy. So I simply click that, deploy, to select them all. And the next thing I get is the scope of who is going to get these devices. And there's my 10 devices. I'm going to select them. I'm going to hit next. And now I'm asked, when do you want to do it? Do you want to make it an open-ended task? What's the date you want it to end on? Is it client or UTC time? Do I want to stagger it because I have lousy bandwidth? Do I want to send it as a required action? In other words, notify someone. And if you need to know what that is, then you can also point to the question mark. You can send it as an offer. Basically, a guy putting his hand out saying, would you like this? Download the required files. So how do you spell pre-cache? That's a very effective way of delivering content because it speeds up the patching cycle itself. I can force a restart and even give them notifications as to when I want that to happen and who did it. So now that I've gotten all this configured, I might send it as an offer, it might be a required action. I can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Once I've got it set up, I simply click next, and now it confirms to me I should put in diligence my test patching of Win 10 critical, right? Give it some kind of description, right? I can edit anything I need to do right there, and all I have to do is click deploy, and I'm done. One-time job, goes out there and patches your Win 10 boxes or servers or what have you. And we support 5 different operating systems here in this interface. In the full interface, we have 90 disk variants of operating systems that you can attack. So I'm going to cancel out of this one and close on something I think all of you will really enjoy when it comes to patching. And it's hard to relate the word patching to enjoy, but I'm going to try to. Because what I want to do is I want to lighten the load on the administrators that have to continually go back out and assess, what do you need now? When do I deploy it? Is it okay to send it here? How many patches do I need? I'll pause right there and say that with our patch policy tool, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you to automate your patchings to a specific group of machines or set of target devices on a routine basis, a routine cadence, once a month or whatever your cadence is, so that you can set that in place, and then all you need to do is check it once a month. How does that work? By adding a policy. So I'm going to call this policy my Huber and Associates patch for, and I'll use Win 10 again because that's just part of what I do. And I probably can't type, and that's okay. So now I'm going to pick a site. And as you learn more about BIGFIX, we put everything in basically folders or sites. Then I'm going to put my description, always a best practice to put in your description. I'm going to pick a category. I'm going to keep this like I did before. I'm going to click the severity. I'm going to click OS updates. But please note, you can also do application updates and third-party updates with this same tool. I'm going to select Windows 10. If I want to exclude some kind of title that may be in the fixlet or the patch, I can do that as well to be sure I don't get bad policy actions. And then last but not least, this is when the actual configuration that I have designed up above here refreshes itself. So it's going to go out to Microsoft and it's going to make sure you have your current content on the road to patching your machines automatically once a month in this particular case. So now that I've done this and I've set my first Patch Tuesday collection cadence, I'm going to add my policy, and immediately I need to set a schedule for when I'm going to patch the devices. I simply come in here and I put in my title. And then I'm going to say I'm doing this monthly, and I'm going to pick that first Saturday after Patch Tuesday to give the patches a day or two to settle down, right? Client time or UTC, patch duration, I'm going to give them 7 days because these are workstations. I don't normally use a maintenance window on workstations, but if this was a server scope, I'd use a maintenance window, and we'd respect that and make sure that nothing got patched except during the SLA time of maintenance window. Down here, I can pre-cache. Great story. Gonna pre-cache that so that I don't have to worry about where is the content when it comes to install the patch. I can stagger it. Again, a repeat of what we saw earlier, and these are workstations, so maybe I'll give them an option to restart the machines because we always like to reboot machines before and after patching. Just a good best practice that we offer our customers. In fact, we have a video on best practices that you should check out on our YouTube channel. It's the BIGFIX YouTube channel. So now that I've set up this patching algorithm and schedule, I just click OK. And the next thing I see is I can pick my machines, my target machines. I can do it by group. I can do it by device, or I can go even, again, a little more granular. I can say operating system is going to be Windows. I'm going to say that the basic idea behind this is that I can pick any of the options. But of course, I'm going to stick to my Windows 10. And there's my list of Windows 10 devices. I'll select them. And we are pretty much done. We have now selected our patches. We've selected our devices. And all I have to do is activate. And believe it or not, I have created a patch policy in just a few short minutes that allows you on routine cadence to build an automatically intelligent baseline that gives you the ability to patch your devices on routine cadence, in this case, once a month, hands off, and all you need to do is check your reports, and we give you just a plethora of reports to dive into and learn about how am I doing on patching. So ladies and gentlemen, from a single one-off patching to deploying a patch policy to enable your IT people to work smarter and not harder and be able to help the endpoint stay compliant, this is BIGFIX with the web UI and patching made simple. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I know that I might have gone a little ahead of schedule here. I didn't expect to be so quick about it, but I wanted to thank you again for taking a minute to listen to BIGFIX and patching. And I'll turn it back over to our team and Dean.
Thanks, Don. We appreciate it. And I guess the real issue with patching is we don't often know if it's happening. We don't have the granularity to make sure that it's being pushed out to those remote folks. And we all know in today's environment that we have to patch in order to become safe. So, and if you don't go through any kind of an audit, it's going to flag immediately that, that's a hole in your security realm of you got to get everything patched. So that being said, Will, are you ready to kind of take back over?
I sure am.
Excellent. Will, take it away and give us some great information about iLand.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot. And so all the things Don talked about are extremely important when you start thinking about defense in depth and data recovery. You have to patch, with the implementation into security suites like Tenable and stuff like that, being able to not only have your OS patched, but also your security software patched, especially in the working from home times, is super, super important and beneficial for everyone. But once you get past defense, right, you have to defend against all this stuff. The next thing you have to think about is protection and recovery, right? And the two things go hand in hand, and you have to have them both. And so, there's a topic out there called the 3-2-1 rule of data availability. And what it really comes down to is there's 3 copies of your data, including your production, and 2 additional copies. And you have 2 different media types. So, this is for, as your users are attaching to their shared drives, or they're attaching to company confidential information, or they're attaching to their applications or stuff like that, you need to have multiple copies of this data for any number of things, whether it's data outage, whether it's ransomware, whether it's accidental deletion, anything like that. And you want them to be on 2 separate media types, because if you have your production environment running in your data center and you're also doing local backups to it, and something happens, even something as simple as a power outage for a day, or a global pandemic, and you can't get to your data center for whatever reason, you need to be able to have those separate. And then finally, you want to have one of those copies of the data air-gapped and off-site. And so what does air-gapped and off-site means? It just really means inaccessible to any number of things. And, traditionally this was throw a tape on a truck and put it in a warehouse, or put it in, a safe or something like that. But cloud has really kind of revolutionized how companies can protect their data, whether it's for long-term archival, for compliance and litigation reasons, or if it's just to have an additional copy of their data somewhere else. And so those are really, really important. And so with Hubert and iLand, we've introduced a broader data protection and recovery solution, and they can help you understand where it makes sense and what are some of the things that you can achieve through data protection and disaster recovery tools and scenarios. So it includes things like secure cloud backup, which is that tertiary copy off-site and air-gapped. A lot of organizations are taking advantage of S3 compliant object storage, whether it's with Veeam 10 copy mode, or scale out backup repository, or sync and share drives that are secure, more so than like a Dropbox or something like that, but something that's enterprise housed and secured, and then eventually moving to secure disaster recovery, right? So I'll talk about that in a little bit, but backups are necessary to protect your data and to give you a long-term archive. But backups are only one part of the recovery solution. The other part is being able to recover your organization as quickly as possible to continue to run business. And with Veeam automation, orchestration, testing, and reporting with the iLand cloud, you have a full IT resilient disaster recovery solution at your hands. And that allows you to bring up your environment no matter what happens, whether it's natural disaster, which is what people usually equate disaster recovery to. But when you think about all the other things that could happen, power outage, ransomware, hardware failure, and you're not going to get parts for 4 hours. Being able to bring your production environment online and quickly recover is paramount today. And then finally, as more and more organizations are moving to SaaS-based applications like Office 365 for SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive, there's a lot of reasons why you need to continue your data protection and recovery policies for that data as well. For example, when you have a user who is leveraging Office 365 for their mailbox, if that user leaves the organization and you delete the user, that data only lives for about 30 days and then it's deleted. Now, what happens if in a year you have some sort of legal hold or you have some sort of issue where you need to recover files either from OneDrive or from SharePoint or from email from that particular user? If you don't have access to that, you could find yourself in an issue where your InfoSec team and your security and legal team now doesn't know that you didn't have the backups or proper protection in place for that data. So it's a complete comprehensive suite of tools that we can offer you to protect and recover your data, no matter what it is you're trying to do. When it comes to iLand Secure Backup as a Service, basically what happens is you've got your virtual machines, you've got your applications, you've even got your endpoints in today's global working from home environment, and you can back them up to the cloud. And again, that creates that air-gapped, efficient copy of your data. So if something happens to a hard drive, whether it's a local hard drive or a remote hard drive, or maybe a laptop gets stolen, you can wipe it with your InfoSec tools, and then you can recover the data and the user isn't impacted. That data is still available. They haven't lost all that work. If it's your applications, if it's your virtual machines, any number of things can happen that you need to recover from. Corrupt table or whatever, you're able to quickly recover from local, or you can recover from the cloud. And so what it does is it leverages a hardware agnostic cloud-based encrypted tunnel to send your data offsite. And what's important about that is, in 3, 6, 9 months, when you are looking to recover something or you need to recover something, you don't have to worry about, do you still have the same hardware that you had on site when you first made those backups. And then there's a new feature called iLand Insider Protection. Now, insider protection is one of those things where, you hate to think of somebody malicious inside your organization. There's ransomware and there's, evil people outside in the world, and they're trying to get in, they're trying to do all this bad stuff. And you hate to think that there's somebody inside your organization who is potentially also doing something bad. But sometimes it happens, and there are things in place to protect you. So insider protection is just an additional layer of protection for your cloud-based backups, that if somebody maliciously comes in and deletes all the files, deletes all the backups, and then goes to the cloud and deletes all the cloud backups, your cloud service provider still has a copy of those files that only they can recover. It's just one more layer of protection to protect that sensitive data, to protect those virtual machines in case something really bad happens. And then again, I talked a little bit about iLand Secure Cloud Backup for Office 365, but basically being able to do cloud-to-cloud backup for Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint automatically and daily relieves the burden from administrators from not only having to manage their Exchange and SharePoint and OneDrive solutions on site, but also having to protect them. And within a single UI, they can quickly recover files from individual emails to individual mailboxes to entire SharePoint sites, to OneDrive files and everything like that. So all of the things that you traditionally do on site, such as, you have an F drive and, somebody calls up and says, hey, I can't find this file, or I accidentally deleted this file last week, can you recover it? Those same things don't go away just because you're using the cloud. And now you have all the tools in place to recover and protect that data as well. But backups are not enough, and we talked a little bit about that. But true IT resilience lies in the ability to quickly recover your organization. There's this concept of RTO and RPO, recovery point objective and recovery time objective. And a classic example is if you are running your backups at 6 o'clock at night and something happens at 5 o'clock the next night, that's potentially 23 hours worth of data that is unrecoverable because it was never backed up. In addition, the time it takes to recover could potentially be another 4, 5, 6, 10 hours. And so now you're looking at potentially a 2-day outage for something as simple as a failed hard drive or power outage in your organization. So IT resilience is the ability to quickly bring your organization online and within a much finer window of replication point than just backups alone. You have to have backups. You need it for many regulatory issues, maybe many audits, long-term archival, things like that. But IT resilience is important. Now, disaster recovery used to be this whole big, long, complex thing where you had to have a secondary site and you had to replicate your data and you had to worry about all this stuff. And then how are you going to power and cool it and rack and stack and manage and cable and all that stuff. And then you had to worry about your IT staff and keeping up with the management of it and going over there and checking on the equipment. And then you had to worry about replicating it. And then when you wanted to test it to verify it, maybe you did it once a year and it became very challenging. But with virtualization, encapsulation, and all the things that we've done with cloud, disaster recovery now becomes a much simpler and more cost-effective solution. And everyone at Huber can actually help you guide yourself through that process and see how it works and how you can actually achieve true IT resilience. And with the iLand Disaster Recovery as a Service, it offers a path forward. So you don't have to go purchase additional hardware. There's geographic redundancies in all of our global data centers, the ability to test and schedule testing at any time without a disruption by non-disruptively bringing on your infrastructure and allowing you to verify that it works. One of the challenges with disaster recovery was always, well, when am I going to have time to test it? So when InfoSec comes, when CISOs come, when your IT leadership comes and says, hey, I just saw this thing, it's almost hurricane season, right? And if you're in Florida or North Carolina or anything like that, how are we prepared for this? Well, let me show you. I'll press a button and it will fail over our entire data center non-disruptively, and it'll bring it online. It'll give you a report. It'll audit it. It'll tell you all the virtual machines that are up and running in the cloud. And at any point, we can make that a live production environment and be safe from whatever. And then that automation and orchestration is important because, when you think about it, if you have 10 virtual machines, it's really easy to power them up in the right order. But when you have 1,200 virtual machines, now you need that automation and orchestration to really streamline how you can bring your organization online. And that's all I have. Melissa, Dean, if you guys want to take it back over, the idea being that defense in depth and IT resilience are two parts of the same problem. Protecting your users, protecting your data, protecting your data center, all so that you can continue business operations no matter what the scenario.
Will, thank you so much. We really appreciate that, and outstanding, kind of wetting our whistle a little bit about what iLand can do. And I can tell the folks on the phone that both from a BIGFIX, getting started with patch, and an iLand, we're seeing it very economical for our customers to make that move. And then from a BIGFIX standpoint, just the possibilities are endless. If for folks that have been around for a while, if you remember some of the older tools like Altiris, it's everything that it wanted to be. NetIQ, if you remember that from back in the old days. So BIGFIX has kind of taken the baton and run with it and done really well. It's been exciting to see what's happened since HCL took it back over from IBM. So BIGFIX was an awesome product. IBM took it for a few years, and they just didn't put the dollars behind it. HCL picked it up, I don't know, I guess it's been a little over a year now, and we're seeing exciting things with BIGFIX. And again, very economical, straightforward. Customers that have seen it, we've done proof of concepts, it's just working as advertised. As ever, we'd welcome a conversation to come in and or virtually kind of discuss what your needs are around the backups and patching, or in greater detail what BIGFIX can do. So please reach out to us and let us know if we'd like to have that conversation. we'll be sending out a virtual survey. Normally I hand those out at our Lunch and Learns, but you'll be getting one in an email. Please let us know how we did on our first pass at a virtual session. Is there any questions out there that we could answer? I know that Will and Don are both still on. Is there anything that comes to mind? You'd have to unmute yourself. So if you could right click yourself and say unmute, we'd answer a question or two. We'll give it a moment here and see if anybody has anything. All right. Looks like everybody's quiet. Well, we're going to give you the next best thing and provide some time back on your day. I know that's always exciting. So we appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for being part of our first virtual session. Take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you or talking to you soon.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Take care.